You've just entered the no delusion zone. I'm David Dubato. The topic for today's discussion is what I call the mysterious Russian soul. To me, it's not all that mysterious, but it is something that the Russian people are very, very proud of. And it's something that I believe is actually encoded into their very DNA, the very essence of who they are. And it's been around for at least 7 or 8 centuries, since at least the time of the first Tsar. And essentially what it is Russian leaders, again, going from the Tsar back down, um, they've been telling the Russian people for all these centuries that part of who they are, what makes Russians Russians, is an eternal sense of victimhood. That they, the Russian people, are victims of pretty much everybody. And in the last couple of centuries, in the last century at least, the West has been the bad guy, the boogeyman. But before that, it was the entire world, starting with the Mongols back when, before Russia was Russia. And then from then on and on, just pretty much any country that got in their way, and leading up to today, where NATO and the West are really their enemies. And they are, of course, victims because Russians never do any wrong. They don't start wars. They're very peaceful people, peace-loving people. They don't disturb anybody. They don't erase borders. They obey international law. They're God-fearing people. And other people just don't understand this. That's where the victimhood comes in, because the rest of the world always wants what Russia has, whatever that is. And because of that, Russians always need to be on guard, because you never know when some country, some bad player, some bad actor is going to come rumbling across the Russian border and seize their land and take everything they have. So they always have to be vigilant. They always have to be prepared. And because times are always tough in Russia, pretty much since the beginning of the state of Russia, they always have to be depressed, suffering. That's the other key part of the Russian soul, suffering. So you've got eternal victimhood and then suffering. Those are the main two components of the mysterious Russian soul. And if you believe that your lot in life is to always be the victim of the rest of the world, and therefore you're always going to be suffering and pretty much poor with a hopeless or no future, then you're pretty much clay to be shaped into any form that your leaders want to. And the Russian leaders have taken advantage of that for 700 or 800 years. And it's led to a lot of misery and a lot of suffering by the Russian people, who, since they think that suffering is their lot, just get along to go along. They just, just like water off a duck's back. It's no big deal. They are born knowing that they'll probably be poor, they'll probably be very unhappy, unhealthy, and not live a very long life. So if that's what, your lot in life is, what you have to look forward to, or not, you're going to pretty much be, as we have learned now in Ukraine, cannon fodder for the Tsar. And you'll do pretty much what he says. Anytime he wants to do anything, a royal decree from the Kremlin, you jump. And you're always afraid, because your life is worthless unless he says so. Your life is literally in the Tsar's hands. Which brings us to today and the point of this discussion. It was really, really easy for the downtrodden, always victimized, suffering people of Russia to believe the propaganda and out lies of Tsar Putin when he told them that NATO was surrounding Russia, just waiting to pounce. and that it was Ukraine who actually attacked Russia with NATO's help, of course. So, therefore, Russia had no choice but to defend itself. That is why the Tsar told the Russian people that they went into Ukraine. They didn't invade a sovereign country. Oh, no, Russia never does that. Never. They respect international treaties and international boundaries. Always. No, they were just defending themselves. They were defending Russian territory. And even a bigger lie was that they were defending the poor, downtrodden, victimized, long-suffering Russian speakers in eastern Ukraine, known as the Donbass. Oh, yeah. Putin told the Russian people that Ukrainians, those gay Ukrainian Nazi fascists, that they were going into the Donbass and seeking out all the Russian speakers and torturing them, especially little children. He even doctored videos. Believe this. Think about this. He even doctored videos to show that these gay Nazi Ukrainians had put children and the elderly on crosses and crucified them just for being Russian speakers. Even though at that time more than 90% of all Ukrainians spoke Russian as either their first or second language. So why they should arrest and torture fellow Russian speakers, of course, would be beyond belief to any rational person. But Putin and his serf Russian citizens are not rational people. They have been so browbeaten for several hundred years into not thinking for themselves and believing whatever the Tsar tells them that they just accepted it. And the ones that didn't accept it ignored it and shrugged their shoulders and just went along to get along. So that is basically why we're in Ukraine today. And why are we still in Ukraine over 2.5 years later? Even though about 1 million or so young, semi-thinking Russians have left Russia, especially since the first and only mass mobilization back in 2022, is that those that stayed in Russia that have VPNs or virtual private networks, they know what's going on in Ukraine. They do get the truth, but they're a scared minority. Putin has clamped down so much on freedom of the press and arrested anyone who dares speak out against him or the special military operation that those that know the truth, the 10 to 20% or so in Russia, don't dare say a word. And 70 to 80% of Russians, including most of them over the age of 50, get all their information from the Kremlin, from either Russian state TV channel 1 or any other Kremlin propaganda platform. And so all they get is lies. All they get is lies, and they believe it. Hook, line, and sinker. So what do I believe is the main reason for not only the invasion and genocidal war being carried on by Putin in Ukraine, but his threats about resurrecting the Russian Empire all have to do with the mysterious Russian soul and their eternal victimhood, being victimized by the evil West. And also their long-suffering souls, that they are made, they are born to suffer and to serve the Tsar, which they are now doing. And they will continue to do, in my opinion, until Russia is totally and utterly defeated and destroyed on the battlefield. Nothing else will suffice. Putin will not stop until he's dead. Well, until he's dead or deposed, which is probably the same thing. I don't believe whoever might replace Putin will change the directory of the genocidal war in Ukraine or the possibility of resurrecting the Russian Empire throughout Europe. So the only way to stop this madness, this threat against Western democracies, is to utterly, totally defeat Russia on the battlefield, whatever it takes. And I mean whatever it takes. And that's all I have to say for this discussion. As always, please hit the subscribe button so I can make more podcasts like these. And I would really value your opinion. I would love a discussion on this, even if you totally disagree with me. Say so, but tell me why. Obscenities and threats, they don't make it. You'll be deleted and blocked. But anything else, please tell me. Agree with me, disagree with me, whatever. Let's start a discussion on this. And as I said, please subscribe to this button so I can do some more of this. And as always, take care, stay safe, and please stay sane.